Hello, 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 everybody. Okay, we're good. Ooh, my connection's good. Hi, it's Kanesha from boldlivingtoday.com. Hello, Jamina. Hello, Tanya. Yay. Oh, I'm so excited to see everybody. Happy Wednesday. If you're new, welcome to Wednesday Club. And if you've been here before, welcome back. It has been a busy morning here in the Bold Living Today studios, headquarters, empires, house. First of all, we're in Northern California, and as I mentioned at the last broadcast, we are experiencing these really disastrous, devastating wildfires. And honestly, not to be dramatic, but the whole sky is orange right now, and it looks like an episode of Black Mirror. Like, I'm a little freaked out. So I'm super excited to talk to our guest today because she is a self-care, self-love guru. So I think we all need a little bit of that right now. And I had the opportunity to participate, which is still going on. So I'm on a little break. But the Age of Conversation Summit is going on right now. I put information about it in my stories. It's also, thank you, Tanya. You're a wonderful distraction too. I mean, I love being here with everybody. So I'm participating in the Age of Conversation Summit, which is going on right now. The information is on my website, boldlivingtoday.com, in the events, and also in my stories. It's a beautiful, collaborative, community, free event. And so I did a session this morning on key strategies to use to navigate transitions. It was so fun, all about creativity, and so the session was recorded. So when I get access to it, I'm going to share it with all my subscribers. So hopefully you're subscribed to boldlivingtoday.com, and if you're not, you can just go on the website and subscribe. And then also, I am working with a former student of mine who has her own digital business. I'm not sure what to call it, but she is helping me, drum roll, set up the learning lounge for the Bold Living Today community. I'm so excited about it. I'm so giddy about it. So people have been asking me for probably 3 years to set up a membership site so that if they are not in the Bay Area, they can come to some of my retreats. And so we can have the space to have a learning lounge. And I love to do all my events. I love to do, support people. And so every other year, I always do the Beauty of Boldness retreat right before the holiday season at a beautiful spa where we learn and do different things. So that's going to be the first major event in the Learning Lounge. So that'll come in early November. So I'm getting that all together. So it's just been a tremendous September. So I'm happy to have this creative outlet to get things ready while I'm looking out my window at Black Mirror episode. It's just bizarre. But all that being said, more will come out and I'll let you all know. But I'm so excited. Oh, hey, Mom. I'm so excited for today's guest because we go way back. And outside of college, as far as becoming an adult, I would say today's speaker, Daveda, was one of my first true adult friends. Like, we grew up, post-college, post-undergrad adultness. So this will be a conversation with a lot of giggles, a lot of wellness tips, a lot of, nurturing the soul. So grab your notebook, Post-it notes, scrap of paper, back of a bill, journal, and let's get ready. I'm going to invite her on, but y'all, I totally forgot to say what Wednesday Club stood for. Oh my goodness. So the club, for our new folks, the club stands for, the C is creativity, the L is learning from and successfully navigating life transitions, the U is untangling from things and thoughts that keep us small, and the B is building and amplifying our boldness, of course, because this is where we do bold things. So let's invite Daveda. Let's see, where is she? There she is. Come on. Do, 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 do. I can't dance too much. I might knock over the table. I got my tea here. Daveda! Why are you sideways, girl?
Girl, because
there we go.
I'm like, what happened?
We are already starting. Oh my goodness.
Woo! And that's what this is about to be like for a second.
Oh, hold on. Let me adjust my light too. This is weird. Hold on, y'all. Okay. Oh, that's a little bit better.
Okay.
It's dark outside. I think that's what's messing me up.
Kanesha, I saw that somebody sent me a picture of that, and I was like, what in the Sam Hill is that?
It's crazy.
And I could not believe people were out going for walks and stuff. I was like, you can't inhale that. Go inside. Girl yelling at Facebook. It was so ridiculous. But I'm like, that's just frightening. That is frightening.
It's a lot. And people are out hiking and doing all the things. But no, your girl is in the house. And you know her scientist husband has created all these DIY HEPA filters. So
right.
It's like a Beyonce video up in here with the fans and filters going.
I was laughing because I was like, oh, I got to see how Kanesha, I hope she ain't outside. And I was like, wait, Nay Watson raised her better than that. I was like, no. I was like, between Nay Watson and Tally, she ain't going out there. No.
No. I mean, I did go out to the balcony to FaceTime with her mom so she could see. And then she said, go right back on in the house.
Yeah. Training to be out there like that.
Oh, it's so good to see you. You look so great. I love your hair long.
Oh, girl, yeah. I always watch your hair transformation, and yes, you have to watch Black women have a hair conversation. But I was laughing because I was like, what screen is going to fit both our hair, both of us? You know what I thought about the other day? Because this is not, well, it's self-care. Because remember when we used to leave work and go get waffles with ice cream on top of them?
I swear I was just thinking about it the other. That was like the best thing in life.
That was, and I was thinking about, I needed that the other day. Like I was trying to think, I went to Culver's instead, which you can appreciate.
Yeah.
But I was like, I need a waffle with a scoop of vanilla and to sit across from a friend and just talk all the talk that needs to happen. It was that kind of day. But that's okay. Girl, I'm so glad to see you.
I'm so happy to see you. I'm so thrilled to have you in this space and to learn from you. I got my journal here. I got my writing tools here. Here, I'm like ready to learn. So before we get into who you are, you know, I have to play a game because,
right?
So why wouldn't I? And so we're gonna play Would You Rather. And so I'm gonna give you two choices, and of course you can be like, no, I don't want any of those, and tell us what you want. So this will be fun and funny, and also funny that you brought up the waffles, because the first one is: would you rather have apple pie with a slice of cheddar cheese or a la mode?
Oh, a la mode. I don't understand that pie and cheese situation. Yeah, like it bothers me when people eat that around me. So that's not. Yeah, absolutely.
You would think, as a native Wisconsin person, that I would understand the cheese with the pie, but I don't get it.
No.
If anybody is on and can really break it down why I want the cheddar cheese with my pie, my apple pie, let me know.
No, you dishonor the cheese when you do that. Let's talk like that. No way. Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I can turn up my volume just a little bit. Sorry, hand, y'all. Okay, there we go. All right, here's the next one. Would you rather spend the day reading whatever you want or binge watching documentaries? Choices.
You know, I do both. Right now, I would do the documentaries. No, because yeah, I would just alternate. I normally it would be read. A day of just reading with nothing else is like right. So indulgent. You just got to get the right book, right? What was the last one? Ta-Nehisi Coates. Was that? I'm trying to think. What was the last thing I just read until it was done? Because
it probably was that.
Yeah. It was the book. I think that's just who I am. Yeah.
I know it's a very hard question because then, you know, documentaries, you just get into so many different things. And, you know, I'm obsessed with documentaries, but then I'm also obsessed with books. So it's just like, I would have to roll a die.
Yeah, but if you had made that question about would I watch raggedy sitcoms, I would have picked sitcoms because it's like the balance to everything else. I will watch like Frasier for hours upon hours, like every episode. It doesn't matter. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, that's how I feel about Lifetime movies. I'm addicted to them. And I feel like they offer a lot of life lessons on what not to do.
Yes. Okay, you're right on what not to do. I was like, that is not my reality. That is not my experience. So, but I do like them. I do like them.
I mean, watching Lifetime movies with my oldest before she went to college was a whole masterclass in how to not get got. So,
which, by the way, still cannot handle. She's that old. Still can't.
I know it happens so fast. The babies. Okay, so here's the last one. Would you rather, and just pretend there's no COVID.
Okay.
Would you rather jump into a ball pit or into a pool of Jello?
The ball pit's not going to work because it was likely kids in there, and
exactly
on it. And the Jello is a textural problem, so I'm likely not going to do either one of those. That's one. But the best shot would be the Jello. I can't handle all the kids and all the smells of a ball pit. And the Jello would be new.
And what would be at the bottom of the ball pit? Oh, I can't.
Oh,
I knew I would mess with you on that one. I was like, I'm gonna put that out because I know we're not doing either of those things. We're like, one, I don't want to get my hair with Jello.
There are so many. Like, I work too hard to keep my skin looking decent to put it in Jello. It's like I don't put Jello inside my body. Why would I put it on the outside? It's such a oh, that's troubling.
It's troubling. It's troubling. And also, you said all of that about your skin and stuff. Remember that one time, off subject, off topic, we were somewhere and they were talking about shooting people with water guns at an in-service, and we was like, oh.
I think about the things that were on the table back then that would never go now. One, because you know better. And like you have words for stuff now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember how often we would talk about like, these folks is crazy. I'm not doing that. Like, no, this is not going to work. But when I really think about us being so young and having the nerve to speak up.
And no tenure, causing all kinds of problems.
Do you know what I'm talking to somebody about? When all of this stuff jumped off lately, because the world is shifting. I was telling someone about that teacher who called the kids monkeys. Do you remember that?
Look at my face. Do I remember?
Yes. And I was talking about that, and I was like, when I think about the ovaries it took to walk in and tell on a peer and be like, that's not going to work. But also what it took for the kids to know to come to somebody and tell.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like,
I think about the way we busted up into the admin office, 0 appointment. It was like, deal with this.
Yeah, I was like, that's why I was like, well, this will be interesting, me and Kanesha talking about self-care, because I think that we were just rooted in it so different from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, we knew our parents would always take us back if we lost our jobs.
You know what? I actually tell people, I was like, when I think about us being so young, because you were my first grown friend too. Like,
yeah,
it was a whole new ballgame making friends, like in a workplace, and people you genuinely liked.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I always think about probably the reason, a lot of reasons we worked well, but I think about our mothers taught us a lot about boundaries, about you don't need nobody's validation. You need, like, you can always come back home. Like, they always made it clear you could come back home because they knew we both didn't know how to quite keep stuff to ourselves. But they never apologized for who they raised, right?
Right.
And thinking about how often part of the conversations would be like, girl, you can't let them folks bother you. Like, you can't let them, like, don't even pay them no mind. They don't know what this is like. And how that was just kind of the rhythm of the conversation we would have to validate one another, that we weren't in the experience, but take care of ourselves. And I was, just kind of meditating on it. I was like, I think one of the greatest we both had is we had moms who had a life.
Yeah.
Our mothers loved us like shameless. I mean, we were endlessly adored and loved. There was no question about that. But I think also having mothers who had a life taught us that you were responsible for your own care. You weren't going to get all the satisfaction from other people, or, I was thinking about that. I was like, in some ways we just didn't know better because we just had a different model in front of us. And when they said they got it wrong.
Well, I was going to say we didn't know any better in the sense of we were so passionate about the children and what was right for them. And then we didn't know any better about diplomacy. But what we didn't know any better, like if something went off, like one of the moms would come up there, even though we were grown up. So we didn't want that either.
No. Either one of the mamas to show up. But do you know what I think about? Like, think about how strange it is for first-year teachers to have their bosses and supervisors actually know our parents, like to have met them and stuff like that. It was like, I think about the I call it like that Black woman shield that was put on us to start. And I think that I look back now and I think that made a difference, but I also think it made a difference in a profession that can just take every corner of everything you have. Part of why it did not drown us. Something to do with that network that was put around us, whether we liked them all the time or not. We ain't talking about mamas, we talking about them other folks who was in that network.
Woo, we're not going there today.
Yeah, it was different.
It was different. Like I think about now as a mother of a young 20-something, and one, on the positive note, I wish she would introduce me to some of her job people. I would love to know those people. One, can I get in here? Oh no, I can't. Oh, okay. So sorry.
She know like you do.
That would be awesome. Be like, oh yeah, VIP. Okay. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
But thinking about the conversation at hand, we got a pandemic.
Yes.
We have a racial awakening for other people while we fight racial injustice.
Right.
And we are in an election cycle that is going to drain, I believe, every ounce of decorum out of some of us.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of that, I want you to tell us, one, who you are and what your work is, and then tell us about your career and some of the highlights that got you to this current job. And the reason I say that, because, I coach a lot of people in transition, and a lot of people want their transition to go to A to B instead of like A, 8.1, 8.20, 8.99, to B, and I've had kind of the trajectory, and I like to talk about it so people can hear the timeline that you can create for yourself.
Okay. So my name is Daveda Russell. But first I'm the daughter of Daveda. I'm the granddaughter of Evelyn. I'm the granddaughter of Tilly, and I'm the great granddaughter of Emma. And I always like to call them into a space, all that ancestry space, when I show up, because that's who made me, right? The other thing I just also want to say is I live in Arizona, and I currently live in Phoenix, which is unceded land of the Tohono O'odham tribe. And I think that's important to name whenever I decide to show up to a space, because all of that's a part of who we are, right? So I have had some jobs and I have had some job titles, but here's what it basically boils down to. I've had, right now in the world, my work is to do healing work and help people heal and transform. And the way I do that is as a facilitator, as a meditation teacher. Girl, I'm doing yoga teacher training right now. Woo, light a candle. because we want to get more brown bodies and more plush bodies in yoga scene.
Yes.
And so that's part of the work. And one of the reason I say my work is to heal and transform is because there are multiple avenues of doing that. I have not had one job in a very long time. Okay. Nor do I aspire to have one job. It's just my path. It's not for me. What I will share is, we started off as teachers, and about the big kind of things, not necessarily naming the jobs, but starting off as a high school teacher was the best training ground ever. Mm-hmm. It is humbling. It requires you to turn on a dime. It shows you just how much you don't know on the daily basis. And you have to learn how to own what you do know. And I think particularly for me, teaching at the high school where I went was a profound experience, because that was, what was it like to go off and go to school and come back to community? But also the other part of it, one of the biggest transformations was to leave that job and say, the world can be something other than teaching. Mm-hmm. So all that training, all of that, to leave and say the world could be something other than teaching, and to completely go into something that wasn't education related. But I left that job and I moved to Seattle when nothing was wrong. That's probably the biggest transformation thing. Like, you do transition things, you can have a transition of your own making. You don't have to wait till the world falls apart 7 different ways from Sunday to try something different, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that was interesting. That was hands down my screen keeps blacking. The first big transition of life, because I had never moved away far from home. I went to school an hour away. Came back to the community. So leaving teaching, which was the only thing I ever wanted to do, moving to Seattle was insanity when I looked. I know why I did it, but I still think it was insanity when I look back. I think, and I didn't have family nor friends. I knew the person I was going to work for and one person I had gone to grad school with. And I would say that was the most profound transition, because it took moving miles away from everything I knew to become myself. Mm-hmm. There was just no way that was going to happen, because I come from this gigantic family. I have 41 first cousins. I have family I love and adore. I would have done whatever it was to stay in that rhythm. And I wouldn't have even asked the question for a very long time about what was the right rhythm for me. So I think that was a big transition, or a big moment. I think after, one of the other big moments was I started working for a foundation, and I ran education for a foundation for a while. And that was a big, because it taught me that age was not the deciding factor of what you were capable of. And everybody didn't have everything figured out, and that it did matter if you sometimes just got a shot at something. And I went and did something that was so different. But you talk about the power, that job taught me about the power of people believing and investing in you. Mm-hmm. The foundation was a Black woman. She mentored me. I had the best supervisors in the history of civilization, the best, who were invested, until I had the one that made me need to say, no, thank you. But that experience was profound, because it stretched me to figure out what was possible. And I had people around me going, quit apologizing for being ahead of the curve or doing well or for being young. You are just you, show up with it. And that was powerful. And I was laughing because I was trying to think of other big things. This is not a job thing, but there was this moment. I went on a writer retreat in Turkey once.
Yes, I remember that.
It was so good. And I remember being in Turkey. I had finished the retreat and I stayed a little bit extra, and I had gone to the war. And not in Istanbul. And I remember I was sitting there And I checked some emails. I was working for myself at the time. I checked some emails. I made some lunch. I had a grown-up beverage. I did some other stuff. And then I was like, and my mother called. And I was talking to my mother, and she was like, how's it going? What are you up to? And I told her what I had been up to. And she was like, but you're on vacation. That's what you do at home. And I went, oh my God, my life is vacation. Something has changed because my life on vacation is kind of like my life at home. And I was like, my life is vacation. Good job. Good job. Right. And that transformed everything because I never wanted life to not be like vacation. I wanted, like, I was like, I don't think I ever want to keep that pace again. And there's something to like, oh, I got to get this right rhythm. I got to stay on this rhythm. So that was a big deal. And then I would say moving to Arizona because this has been, I think that people expect that all the transitions are done at a certain point or that you stop taking risks, but to consciously leave California, which is hard to do, to move and say, I don't know all of this, but I'm going to make this move and see how it unfolds. And it is the most unknown I have ever sat with. But I think the biggest thing it's taught me, because it just made a year this week. And when you think about the last year, I was only free to roam in the city for 5 months before we went on lockdown. So it's not a city where the networks are in place. It's not the city. I don't know it the same way. But all I keep coming back to is I came to rest. It's a time of rest and reset. And everything has conspired to make me rest. And I just didn't know how tired I was. Even with all of that, what I would say is a very gentle life, the rest has been profound. Yeah.
I love that. The rest has been profound. I'm hearing so many people that I know, that I'm sure that you know, talking in that place like, I didn't know I needed this break, this recess, this forced shutdown and all of that. And especially if you can maintain your livelihood and, your housing is not insecure, your food is not insecure, because, those are other real things. But as long as you can actually have this respite and enjoy it.
Yes.
And build something with it. And when I say build, I'm not talking about just business, but, build some contentment, build some, additional wellness structures, like whatever you want to build. As long as you're able to build in that, it's not wasted time, or it's not, you're not derailed, is really what I want to say.
And you know what, Kanesha, I think that's the thing, is that it's not going back to what it used to be.
I hope not. No.
It's not. And I think people are still struggling with that. But it's not going back to that because this has happened. And the way we understand the world, the way we understand family, the way we understand relationships, we have too much information now to just kind of pop back into what it was. Right? So that's not happening. But the rest is not like a nap. It is the deep settling of things, right? The releasing of things, the facing things, right? Because I always laugh. I was like, what is the pandemic like if you don't like who you live with?
I say that too. Oh my gosh. Or people who are saying, when I get to this point, I'll be able to make this change. And now you're in a pandemic?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. So, like you, when you say, what are people using this time to do? You hear me like, I have not had time to do a yoga teacher training. We've talked about yoga before, but it's like, oh, and I'll also do this. So I've taken not being on the road, I do work with big groups of people. So that is not on the table. Even when people like that kind of big facilitation, that's not happening right now. And so if that's the case, what can I do now? What can I use this time for? And it's amazing. So it's one thing to take yoga training, right? But I also am taking like special yoga trainings, like De-colonizing yoga, or trainings around yoga for all bodies, for curvy bodies and stuff like that. So that on the other side of this, when I pick up that piece, I am able to engage a different group of people.
Mm-hmm.
But the other side of it might not be about when we're face to face. It's about offering it online and things like that. But, you know, it's such an interesting time to decide what the rest is going to be like and what will you build in the midst of that rest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big fan of rest.
I hear some you know, some things I've known of you in the past and of myself, you know, some commitment to making room for other voices. I hear additional commitment to some intersectionality.
Mm-hmm.
I hear a deeper commitment to bringing some wellness to groups who have been left out. So, you know, I know you typically prioritize projects that support the efforts and evolution of Black women, the Black community at an intersectional base. So, why do you believe, specifically right now and just for always, that, you know, as Black people, as Black women, we need to be our own priority?
Well, because
like, what fuels that for you?
we aren't anyone else's priority. And I don't think I think we have to understand that.
Yes.
Right? We simply aren't. And the reason we aren't, there are good reasons we aren't. Okay, so we're socialized to center whiteness. We're socialized to center maleness. So all of our conditioning has taught us to put forward the things we are not and we can't. Okay, so interrupting something like that is not a natural thing for folks. But I think that those of us who get the awareness have a responsibility to put it out there that, hey, we got to show up for ourselves for this. Like, we have to prioritize ourselves. And I think here's the other thing. I do it because it is not a natural instinct for people, but I want to teach Black women and brown women that saying yes to yourself is not a no for other people. It's simply a no for you first. And you can't be the only one out there not saying you first. It doesn't work, right? It just doesn't work, and it can't be maintained. You know, I always go back to Zora Neale said, Black women are the mules of the world. And I remember being young, reading that and going, that sucks. But why did I understand what that meant so young, right? So I prioritize us because I want to model that. I prioritize us because I like us.
Yes.
Right? I like us. I think us is really great, right? I like all of who we are. And I prioritize us because I know how to make money for other people. I know how to make money for doing other work. But what I kept seeing all the time is it didn't matter what I did in other work or who I do it for, they don't prioritize people who look like me. And so if I have been given an incredible gift, a set of gifts and talents, what would happen if I use that for my people? What would happen if I use that for somebody who looked like me? And I think about what would happen if my mother had a break where she was introduced to yoga, you know? Well, just all sorts of stuff. Like, what would be different about Black women dying from heart disease, all that kind of stuff? What would be different about all that stuff if we were prioritized? So I'm like, nobody else is doing it, I'm gonna do it. And then that other people from having to be the first.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's hard to step out there and take the risk. You know, and prioritize, I still need a livelihood. Prioritizing us does not mean I don't do other work. It just means when work comes and I always ask the question, if a work comes, how does it serve Black people? How does it serve Black women? It could look like the most regular thing in the world to anyone else, but I always ask the question. And the people who I partner with, we've been asking that question for a long time because it's why we get to say yes or no. You
I
know?
love that. I mean, like even in my work, and you know this too, it's like, I do a lot of parent ed. I do a lot of workshops around connecting as a family. And
Yeah.
anytime organizations like, oh, I want to do this for adults, and I'm like, how can teens be involved? Like my primary focus are the teens
Yeah.
and then whoever supports them. So if I can get them at the center of everything, just because I don't feel like there's enough.
Yeah.
And in there, then I can just really get to the intersectionality of what teens are like and living right now. And it's just so important that you're upfront about that and you speaking to existent. And if they don't respond in a way that supports that,
Mm-hmm.
that's maybe not the opportunity for you. Or if they want to expand because they haven't done it, but they want you to guide them, bingo.
Right.
It's just so important.
And that's the thing. You said you center teams, right? So I choose to center Black women. I choose to center Black community. And when people go, well, that's not fair, I go, it's only not fair because you are so unfamiliar with it, because there's another experience. Something is centered. It's
Yeah.
not blanket center. It's just what we choose to put there is different. And the thing is, it still serves all.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that's part of being good and skilled at what you do. It still serves all. But that choice to center something different is deeply compelling for me personally, you know? And I have to say, it's even tough when Black folks or Black women don't feel comfortable with being centered,
Yeah.
you know? So, but you do
You
it.
have to grow into that. I think I feel like when you and I met um in 1995, I want to say. I
Yeah,
think that's right.
95.
And we're new together, we're doing stuff, and you know, being young, because there was a huge young group of us, and I remember there was some like stuff going on at work. I don't know exactly, and I was kind of like, no, whatever, I don't care. And they're like, aren't you worried about stuff? I was like, no, that doesn't serve me. I'm not doing it. And then you were like, yeah, let's not do this together.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well, you taught me how to say uh, no as a complete sentence for real. I had not, like, I could say no, but I used a lot of words. Girl, you would be like, no. And that would be it. Like, I was like,
I remember being at meetings with you, and they're like, I'm like, no, and you were like, but I'm like, no, we're not doing that.
yeah, yeah. And and it was really, it's also learning how to say it and mean it and be okay with the consequence of it.
Yes, that
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, because I think that's part that had to be learned too, It's like, well, we get to say no, and we get to, I am sorry, my light got really funky.
That's
So
okay.
we
But
get to say,
oh,
yeah.
sorry, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just thinking about, and thinking about self-care, that no becomes one of the most important things you ever learn to say. Hands down. Hands down.
Well, and I was going to say that example is just to go back to what you were saying. Sometimes as Black women, we are uncomfortable with being, centered that way.
Oh, yeah.
And having our boundaries intact when people have breached our boundaries in so many different ways without even thinking of us, and us still be able to be like, no, not this, and not over explaining ourselves. I just think that speaks to what you're saying. You're trying to,
Mm-hmm.
have permeate the Black community, and
Well,
specifically for Black women.
I think that's the thing. The thing you just said is what I think is the difference between what I consider to be self-love versus self-care.
Ooh, tell us about that. Yes.
All right. So we have a lot of conversations around self-care out in the world right now. I do self-care. I get my nails done. I get a manicure. I get a massage. And the first thing I want to say is that belief about self-care is colonized. And the reason, the reason we say I believe that, and the people in my world believe that, because one, it's not equal access to all. Two, it doesn't center at the core the way we have historically done self-care in our communities. And it's a belief about self-care that X's people out, right? The language of it is wrong, right? We talk about, I was thinking about this, how horrible the language of self-care is. And I was just trying to, and I talk when I for self-care and they say just relax. I'm like, do you know what it's like to be a Black woman in America? Don't work for me. And I'm certainly not going to relax up in these rooms with these folks I don't know, right? So when I do the work, or when I do the work with the team people I work with, we say, lay it down.
Mm-hmm.
Like we say, just come lay it down. 40 minutes for 50 minutes while you meditate, while you do yoga, just lay it down. We'll hold it. We'll watch it while you lay it down. We know you got to pick it back up, but can you lay it down? That's the difference in it, right? Like that's what the colonization of it is, to assume that everyone is coming to the experience with the same access and privilege that you're coming with. And it's just not true. Also, people come with different trauma. You know, I think that right now, all of the world is in a state of trauma. I think that brown people have historical trauma, current trauma, and we anticipate trauma.
Yes.
And anticipated trauma is exhausting too. And so part of what self-care does, but a really good, more important, a self-love practice can do, is interrupt being in a constant state of anticipation. And so for me, when I tell people about the reason it came up is because you said boundaries. Hands down, self-love is about boundaries. It's about boundaries. You draw a circle, you decide what's in, you decide what's out. And, you know, and I say it's about boundaries because self-love is about how you build your life. It is not, it's deeper than self-care. It says, I'm going to the world, I'm going to be in the world this way because this is how I show up for me, for the life I really want. And I think about that, and so an example, so in self-care, on the other hand, are practices that you use to kind of validate those things, right?
Yeah.
So in a very practical way, I would say, so a boundary I have, something that is a part of my self-love practice is to always stay connected to myself. What do I do to do that? Over on the self-care side, I do meditation, I do breath work, I journal. I have a set of things I do every morning practices. I have a set of things I do when I'm done working for the day. To give myself the awareness to say, okay, you are in the world, whether that's right now, that's virtually, but you're out there in the world. Now let me make sure I'm still connected to myself, right? But I also have self-love practices around connecting to nature. Now, I say this very cautiously because I currently live in Arizona, where it is the hottest summer they have had. And I feel like I'm being slightly punished in some ways, but a self-love practice, why do I have that around nature? I know that nature heals and soothes, right? So before it was Hades, I would go for a morning walk. Kanesha, you know, you saw me put up the picture of sunflower. I am obsessed, but I got my little Rubbermaid containers in the background full of dirt and sunflowers. Well, me and the birds got to work something out, but I started growing sunflowers, right? I care about whether I have fresh air on the days you can breathe it in Arizona. You know, so it's all these things, like you have to have this larger idea about what are the things, what are the ways of being, the way you're going to build your life, so that, and the reason, so that you can really experience life the way you want. And then you can sift out the stuff that doesn't serve that.
Yes.
Like, it makes it really easy to say no, because it just doesn't line up with nothing. You're like, oh no, I'm not gonna do that. As much as I love people, I laugh because, you know, Arizona again is still new. And, you know, I know people here. Do you know who lives here? Chris, who is my teaching partner.
Oh,
Chris lives here. I didn't know that. That's just a side note. Chris lives here. But I was laughing because these are people who I don't know well. They all out in these streets. And so they like, just, okay. They're like, Daveda, you know, we gonna get together, and they went to a wine tasting, which is right up my alley. But I was like, And one of them finally was like, well, we're concerned. I said, I'm concerned about y'all. I was like, I'm not going to be on these, y'all out there like nothing is going on. And I have a boundary around my own health and my care. I was like, and she was like, well, I know you're being cautious because of COVID. I said, no, I have a self-love practice about being well. What does it mean for me to be well? I that support my body's health.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all being out there in the streets ain't supporting my body's health. So, you know. And she was like, I can't even deal with you. But I was like, but I'll see you in 21, But it's such a different way of thinking, because if we make self-care the priority, if we talk about self-care as a be-all, end-all, you miss that it has to serve something greater. Because what happens is you will skip a self-care practice, right? So I love to meditate, but if I skip meditation, I don't question, like if you skip it for a couple of days or you get caught up, question whether I love myself, right? I'm like, ooh. Or if it comes up, like I start being really harsh with myself, I go, what self-care like I missed something. I need to get my practices back in order. And that's separate. But that fundamental thing that says, this is what I invite into my life, this is what I don't, that's boundaries. And boundaries get such a bad rap. Yeah, I know, not with me and you, because I know how you feel about boundaries. You love them for what you, Lord knows you love a good boundary. But boundaries they serve you. They serve you. I was at a workshop last week, and I called my two friends, they're on, Jennifer and Ty, and I told them, the facilitator told this group of folks that they needed to release the word boundaries, because boundaries are obstacles, and they just block stuff out. And and the first thing I thought was, wow, what a place of privilege she speaks from. Two, I thought, oh, that's why her life is a hot mess.
Mm-hmm.
And three, I thought, how dare you take people down with you, because the person who brought up the issue was explaining that the boundaries were helping her to figure something out. And so self-love is all about the boundaries and those bigger ideas. Like, I'm not going to negotiate connected to myself, to nature, to others, eating well, being well, living well. And then you have practices that support that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So give us an example of like your evening ritual. You said you have this thing you do in the morning and then in the evening before you go to bed. Tell us about that evening one, because I think people tend to be better about morning stuff than evening stuff, because we're like sometimes just collapsing into bed.
Yeah. So years ago, when I studied meditation, one of the biggest things I learned, and this was with Chopra Center, and I can't remember who the teacher was, but I remember they taught us that in the morning, when it came to meditation, you are RPM, you rise, you pee, you meditate. And then in the evening, you are raw right after work.
Okay.
So that seems super simple, but with each practice, they need times. You need to decide when they are. It's very easy for me to get a second wind, but I am deciding to use my second wind differently for pleasure and joy versus going back to work. Because if I kick into the second wind of work, I can be up until wee hours of the night, right? But excuse me. So the reason I mentioned both of those is because I think your ability to pull off your evening meditation has everything to do with what you do in the morning. Part of what I have to do in the morning, my evening has always been better for me, is if I skip it in the morning, I am absolutely going to skip it in the evening. And then when I do my morning practice, I set such concrete measures of the day that I can release the day. It's like, I made the most out of this day. It's party time, like whatever that is going to be. So how I do that morning sets me up to say, what will a good life look like today? What will success look like today? What will the life I want look like today? So if I do that, I am so clear about it, I can release the day, right? So the first thing I do is when I'm done, so look, I'm not gonna even lie. So this is me and all my stuff, right? So this is my, right? So when it's time to work, when it's time to stop for the day, right? But I also do that between things.
Okay.
So I'm in work, I work for an hour, 20 minutes, stop, start, right? But when it's the end of the day, I hit it about 3 times and I know it's that. You are going to laugh at this. And I was thinking about people who know me. I inevitably play some music that is not, I play music, right? I play something that if my alter ego would be able to sing really well if I had a voice. So I do that. But I use, and let me say, this is revised over the last year I've been here because I've really struggled. How do you end a day in a pandemic? You're not, right? How do you end a day? So the first thing is, what is non-negotiable about it is the time that I end the day. My workday is not going past 6 o'clock for sure, but that's is definitely not going past. Ooh, gosh, that just sounds awful. It's not going past 6 o'clock, but keeping to that helps. So I plan. So once I do the bell, ring the bell to tell myself it's the end of the day, I write for the next day. I have a planner because we have a good planner, and my planner has like in it what were the greatest successes of the day, what were the challenges of the day. So I do all of that, and then I set the next day. Mm-hmm. So I can, again, it's about releasing the day. But once I set the next day, I'm done. I'm done. And then now what I've started, especially in the last few weeks, has been I lay on the floor. I just lay down. Mm-hmm. And when I tell you I just lay down, I really just lay down. I go in a very cozy, I lay on the floor and I just lay there until my body relaxes. You don't even know how much you're holding, but you can feel it when it starts to relax because sometimes it's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And so I've just started laying down. If I have a class that I'm taking, like somebody else's yoga class, the class is always a good transition. But on those other days, I just lay on the floor. And my lay down takes somewhere between 10 minutes at this point. The next thing I do is I prepare myself something fantastic. Now, I want to be clear. See, y'all thinking dinner. That is not what a grown-up woman does, okay? I am Olivia Pope style. I will have popcorn and wine for dinner in a heartbeat. I bigger meal at lunch. But what I do is I go to give, I don't like to eat too soon too close to going to bed. So I go, and what I am requiring of my evening meals, even on the days where I decide I'm having Cheetos and wine or champagne, it happens. But I put whatever I have for my evening in something beautiful. I put goblets and champagne flutes. And that's how I feed myself at the end of the day, almost like, well, like, yeah. These are, I say I've been doing this the last few weeks. It has to do with the pandemic, right? Finding things that work a little bit better with the evening ritual. And then the other thing I will say is I inevitably have to, even though I lay down as an immediate switch up, I do have to stretch my back every night. Mm-hmm. Because that is what this body requests. So I stretch my back, and then I clean and massage my feet. So these are just, there are a lot of healing practices from different belief traditions, a lot from Ayurveda, but a lot from other traditions as well. And so those are the things I do. I mean, I do my feet once I'm done dinner or whatever, like, just because I know everybody like, when she do her feet, like, I see your mom is saying here, but you have to stretch that
You
out.
have to stretch that. I know. Sometimes I'll call her and she's in the middle of stretching, but she's getting it in.
Yeah, you got to stretch it out. And right now I'm doing a lot of restorative yoga. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Well, this body does not agree to twisting like a pretzel.
No, I'm doing the restorative too, Davida. Like that is,
Yeah,
yes.
you do restorative. You do like maybe some yin, but you do things that build your body and heal your body, right? Because even if you're not ripping, running out in the streets, your body is holding the tension, the anxiety at the current time. I'm only allowed to watch 1 hour of news every other day because I have to go back to that. I can't handle it.
Yeah.
Joy Reid started coming on every day. I got all up into it.
I know. It's hard to resist her. My husband put me on 20 minutes a day. He said, that's TV or NPR. You only get 20 minutes.
Yeah. And I think that that's the kind of stuff, right? But even if I watch it, it's deciding it's got to turn off at a certain time.
Yeah.
I tell people, you got to turn that off 2 to 3 hours. Some people fall asleep fine, but I have nightmares if I have that stuff.
No, it's in there.
And that's my whole thing. The energy of it is still up in there happening. So
yeah.
And then I do use a lot of essential oils and things like that to help I put myself to sleep now like an 8-year-old. I am not kidding. Like I highly recommend people put this. My bedroom is delicious. It is.
Yes.
Like you just want to like. I don't ever feel like I don't want to lay down. It is so wonderful all the time. It's the sheets I want. It's the bed I want. It's the spreads I want. It's the smells I want. It's the sounds I want. It's the lights I want. And I made my bedroom irresistible to me. And that is a part of also that evening ritual. I think that two of the most, I think cutting it off immediately. I'm sorry, I said I lay on the floor, but I also meditate every evening for 20 minutes. Not, I'm supposed to say every. I meditate most evenings for 20 minutes. But the other thing I would say, you have an evening ritual to make you stop work, but you should have a ritual to put yourself to bed.
I love that. I love that. So one thing, I'm just looking at the time. I don't like to rush my guests, but Instagram's going to start their countdown. So please tell people where they can learn more about you and what you're offering. Like, where can we find Daveda other than Instagram?
Well, one, Kanesha, you know this, like most people who know me, I used to be the worst about being on social media. And I laugh. Both, I felt like I didn't have time. But the other thing I really admit is I could not handle the energy of it.
Yeah.
I changed the relationship with it because now I know how to manage social media relationship. So always, if you want to reach me, DavedaRussell.com. You can always just go there and get to me. I have a website that is up, but it's not up for, we're changing that, and that's Black Girl Organic. That'll be my virtual arts gallery, which is
yay.
So it's something up there that's not of use right now, but it'll be very exciting for me to be launching that because that's one of the things I'm super excited to do before the year is out. And then the other thing I just say is while Black Girl Organic is on Facebook, Instagram, the other thing that I do spend time in is something called Soul Light Collaborative. And that's where I work with two other sisters, Jennifer Lucero Earl and Ty Velasquez. And we do work in community, but we also do we do work like facilitating all those meetings and stuff, but you'll see us constantly partnering for movement, meditation, and healing in Brown communities. So we do. And then when we can gather in person again, we'll bring back Sisters in Silence, which is retreats just for women of color.
Yes, yes. Oh, thank you so much, beautiful. If there's more information, Daveda, when I post this, just put it in the comments, just because I'm watching the time, and my amazing assistant is putting all your information in the comments there. Listen, I got people. just because I want people to be able to get this goodness, and if they want to carry the conversation, I want them to have the space because it's so important, and we really have to take good care of ourselves to live boldly. I love you. I wish I could hug you, but we'll have to get on the phone sometime soon because I have so much to tell you. So thank you, everybody. I'm so sorry to like be so abrupt, but it's gonna cut off.